Hi, Shivani. How are you?
Hey, Prince. So lovely to be catching up with you at
Likewise.
iFHP's Big Ideas Conference in
Yeah, it's
Cape Town.
crazy. It's crazy. It's amazing. And yeah, the energy's just been so awesome in the room, to be quite honest. Been super inspired by what I've heard thus far. I don't know, how's your experience been going?
Well, I loved what I heard about the provocation that you brought into the room
Yeah.
today. Tell
Yeah.
us, tell us about the question that you asked.
So the question really was around this whole idea of who would you be and what would you have achieved if you were just 1,000 times more bolder?
1,000 times bolder.
Yes. And the crux of it is that it has less to do with your potential. It's not even asking you about your capability, but it's more around what's your willingness to dare to try, to challenge the status quo ante, as it were. And specifically, I guess, for medical schemes or funders, as it were, in terms of how we think about our current healthcare system and how we service those consumers. So I hope it landed. I pray it did. But the feedback thus far has been great. So yeah. But I mean, on your side, what's the plan? I also hear you speaking later on.
Yeah, and I think also on the provocative side.
Okay, shout out.
Um, yeah, so we also, I mean, we sit in this, I guess, quite challenging space
Sure.
of wanting to reorganize pockets of the healthcare system.
Sure.
It's too big and complex to try to reorganize the whole thing. So we pick a part of the system that we think we can effectively reorganize. And it's really about reorganizing around what actually matters. I find it ridiculous that we have health systems that don't serve healthcare patients.
That's right.
And it would be the same in your world, right? I mean, the kind of pioneering financial services work that you do. I'm sure you often come across products and services that don't really serve who they should.
And I mean, that's such a good point. And I mean, I'm just interested to get your perspective, at least, as to why do you think the status quo persists?
I think a lot of it has to do with power and systems of supremacy. I think our human mind defaults to hierarchies, who's better than who. And because of those persistent hierarchies, and in a place like South Africa, those very entrenched colonial and apartheid systems, I think the status quo protects parts of society at the expense of others. But I don't think that is sustainable in the long term. I don't think you can have this imbalance without it tipping over at some point. And I think, as we look at system collapse all over the world, ecological collapse, democratic collapse, all of the systems that we've come to sort of believe in not really working, we really have to ask these questions about what could we imagine differently. And are we willing, as you were, in your question, are we willing to do that work, even if it means that we have to give up some of our privilege in the process?
No, 100%. That's such a powerful point in this question of hierarchy, right? And I think it also just speaks in part to us as people, to your point, kind of like appreciating our agency in the moment, because it is a scary thing to challenge a system. I think Big Ideas, which is the name of this entire gathering or summit, as it were, embedded in this idea of anything being big or it being an idea means that it's novel, it's new, it's different. And in challenging something as systemic as you've articulated, what mindset should we hold?
It's a great question. I would say it's probably a few kind of mindsets stacked together. There's an openness, a willingness to learn, a willingness to be changed. Courage. I mean, you said the word bold earlier. It really made me think about, where do I draw encouragement from? Where do we as an organization draw encouragement from? Because I also don't think we can do this work alone.
No.
And so even though, we work in different spaces, just hearing the question that you posed, just hearing, you talk about underserved communities, I draw encouragement from that, that there are other people wanting to do this work of challenging. What do you think? What qualities do you think you need to bring to this work?
I think that part of it, not all of it, just a small part of it, has to do with partnerships. Partnerships. We might not all have the same interests, but we can align on objectives. And I think realizing specifically when any kind of institutional work or transition requires ecosystem actors who might not be fully aligned with you on your interests, but you can align with them on objectives. And that level of alignment, even if it's transient in nature, can assist in institutional change over time, right? I think I'm wary of suggesting anything as a silver bullet, because we appreciate that change takes time. The question is, do we have that time? Because of the level of urgency that we have. And I would hope that partnership would play a big role. I think individuals being vocal enough to speak truth to power internally, at the cost of their bonus, where we realize that the present we live in is not inherited from our ancestors, it's borrowed from our children. And the imperative, therefore, as a consequence, to think differently about the systems within which we operate, how we transform those, and the urgency with which we move, requires that mindset of, I can't afford to index on the now. So I think that's important. And if we can continue to create platforms of this nature for more people to engage, to challenge, to transform, that's when we ultimately make the difference we want to see in our country.
Sure, I'm so moved by so many things that you said. I loved what you said about borrowing from the future. I think we don't think intergenerationally enough. I think the world has shifted into having much too short timeframes. And so how we expand those timeframes, when there is also urgency, how do we hold both of the paradox of urgency and multi-generational, intergenerational transformation is a crucial question. I heard a beautiful anecdote the other day about evolution. And that evolution actually occurs through anomalies. And so these almost experimental small errors, really, in genetic material from one generation to the next. It's only through those anomalies that we realize, like, oh wait, this is better, and then let's do more of it. And so, to that point of boldness and courage, that I found that very encouraging. It's like, it's okay if they're just these small pockets of experimentation and change, like pushing at the boundaries of what seems possible, because through that evolution might become possible.
100%. I mean, for fear of being political, but I'll draw on this thought process. So the story goes that the ANC, during their process of negotiating democracy, as it were, in this country, employed a strategy they called Indima diplomacy. And in Xhosa, Indima is like you're farming, but you're farming a particular acre or field at a time. So the whole idea was akin to the English saying, you don't eat an elephant in one bite, you eat it a piece at a time. And the whole idea was Indima diplomacy. And I think in many ways it was like acquiring one stack at each point in time, as opposed to trying to win everything in one conversation and or in one interaction. And I think in part it's like we've got to have that view on anything systemic. How do we apply the lens of focusing on what's priority? So that is not minoring on majors and majoring on minors. And maybe for me, as I reflect, and I've listened to a number of the conversations that happen, and I'm going to pose the question to you, really. with someone with your experience who's definitely been more involved in the healthcare space than myself, where would you say are the urgent priority areas? If you had an opportunity to shift one dial that you think would have 80% of the impact, what would it be?
So I'll tell you where we're currently placing our attention, which is where we think there's space to move. It's in the areas of pregnancy, to the point of intergenerational change. If through every birth that happens in our healthcare system, that birth is occurring within a broken system, we're born into the world in a particular way. If we can change the way that we arrive into the world, how powerful is that? And then the other place, which is kidney care, which may sound a little bit, kind of more difficult to grasp why that's at the but for me, it's incredibly symbolic. The kidneys do all of this work of purification,
Sure.
and they play a very quiet, kind of sacrificial role in the background. And there's a strong parallel between, I think, what we do to our bodies in terms of that, I guess, detoxification and rebalancing role, as what we've done to the planet. And I look at what we've done, what we've extracted, and this kind of silent suffering of the planet, which is now no longer silent. It's now getting louder and louder. The kidneys seem like a place where we need to learn again. How does one rebalance a broken system?
Wow, that's such a beautiful framing and reflection point, specifically with this idea of kidneys, and thank you for that. Yeah, I think the conference will be blessed with your reflections, and I'm excited for your presentation that's coming up.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much.
Such a great pleasure.
Sincerely appreciate it.